Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this City Council meeting on January 20th, 2026. We will begin our workshop at 5 p.m. Council, there was one item on the regular agenda. It says here on the workshop session, discussion on any topic listed on the current agenda. If you take a look at your agendas, item number 8, this is consideration and possible action on appointing Matt Lawson to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, Place 4. Matt is not going to be able to stay through our workshop or to that agenda item. His wife is having surgery first thing tomorrow morning. We will make sure to be praying for her, but that means he's going to have to wake up early and he needs to get home. And so, Council, Matt just wanted to say a few words to us tonight since he won't be able to stay for the agenda item. So I'd like for Matt, if you could come forward to the podium, then we'll let you slip out there and then we'll go into our item listed on the workshop session.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it. I look around and I think everybody knows me. But in case you don't, Matt Lawson, I'm with Meridiana. It's an honor that you reached out to think of me and Meridiana for this appointment. I've always looked at things from multiple perspectives. So and I'll continue to do that from this vantage point. So not from just from a development standpoint, but also from people. This is their lives. This is, as we develop Meridiana, this is something that I take to heart. I can tell you, I buy what I sell. I live in one of the communities I built. And so it's important to me. People, this is where generational living begins, is the plan, and want to make it successful, not only for Meridiana, but also for Manvel. And I think some of the things that we have done as an organization hopefully support that. So again, thank you. Appreciate it. And I apologize. I was telling the mayor, I found out on the way over, I was expecting to hang out and for a while, but when the doctor calls and says, "Hey, we're moving you up," gotta listen to the boss, right? And be home. So thank you, and feel free to. I'm open to any questions or thoughts or comments. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. All right, Council. We will now move to the item listed on the workshop, which is discussion on informational follow-up from the City Council planning session with Ron Cox Consulting. Manager Dan, we'll let you introduce this item.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is the next step. We had a very successful planning session last year. It sounds funny to say, but Mr. Cox has got, golly, I'm going to do it. Ron, there you go. That's his first name. He was my city manager for many years, and that's the way we always addressed him. But he's got to the next step. I think we were probably almost ready at the last meeting, but it was right after the first of the year, and so we decided to push it to this meeting. And so I think he's going to give you the results. There's some follow-up stuff that you're going to see is kind of some hanging chads there that is now going to be for the staff to implement, the implementation of this great plan that we all came up with. But the next step is going to be presented now. Thank you, Mr. Cox.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate it very much. It's great to see Mayor Martin here, and I started working here for the City of Manvel for Mayor Martin before I finished my work at the City of Friendswood. I took vacation time to come over here and work with Mayor Martin and the developers, and not long after that, Matt and his company came in to develop Meridiana, so it was good to see him as well. I appreciated the opportunity to, let's see if this is going to move. They said it would. There it goes. Found the right button. Appreciated the opportunity to meet with all of you all, both collectively and then in some cases individually through this process. We started in October with interviews with Dan and talking with him about expectations. We had individual interviews with each of you the end of October as well. And then we had our session the evening of November 19th on governance, and our planning session with the staff included on the 20th to talk about goals and objectives. I came back on December the 2nd and worked with the staff, and we talked about the outcomes from the planning session. And I had, in the meantime, prepared a report that each of you should have seen or maybe in your packet. And then we also drafted what we call an implementation plan. And working with the staff, and I'll talk about that more here in just a little bit, but in working with the staff, we were able to put some meat to those goals and objectives that you all prepared back in November. So they have some action items, they have responsibilities toward those action items, and that sort of thing. And then that brings us to tonight, the final report for this process. I appreciate having been associated with that and all the efforts that both council and staff made. As I said, we did our council governance session and then our planning session on November 19 and 20. And tonight I just want to review the governance model, those goals and strategies, and then talk in a little more detail about the implementation plan if it's available. And this is what we did on December 2nd. So our governance model, we use this corral as the example. We continue to build the corral as we move through this process so that we can get predictability and consistency and lead in a predictable way. We discussed leadership, communication, understanding roles and fulfilling expectations, and then we went into the visioning and planning discussions that in our session the next day. I asked each of you why you ran for the office and why you serve and what those attributes are at the council level. And we got great responses from each of you, and I'm not going to read off these bullets, you'll be glad to know. But they are there for your reference, and they're in the full report as well. But we got great responses, and those that that are the best of those to give back to the community, to build trust in the community. Those kinds of things mean that you're community-minded and not self-centered, but looking outwardly as opposed to internally. And then what do you bring? You bring a passion for data and numbers, being community-minded, being accessible, known for trying to think outside the box and do things maybe just a little bit differently. And your good stewardship. And so you come individually for those reasons, don't you? You come because you wanted to run. You come because you have specific attributes that you can bring to the table. But once you get to the table, then you're required to work together as a group, as a team. And as a group, and you rely on the staff to provide the professional expertise that you need to make good, professional, well thought out decisions. And that process of making decisions is the process of governance, and it applies, as we talked about, to every level of organizations, to the small organizations, to the large ones. And how you function within that, building, again, predictability and consistency is a mark of how much and how well you move forward. So I asked you all when we were together there on the 19th, how will you lead? And these are the descriptions that you gave us, you gave the group. So these are not attributed to any one person, as you can tell, but they're attributed to each of you, all of you who made responses and comments in that regard. With compassion and determination, with high energy by being engaged as a part of a team together. Those are the kinds of things that are important on how you will lead, with honor, integrity, sincerity, and ethically. and by being involved. So leadership it is placed upon you because you were elected to this role, and you've now said what your leadership model will be. We also talked about communication. How do we communicate with each other? How do we communicate with staff? That partially will roll over into our roles and expectations. But how do we communicate with the citizens? And these are the responses that you made as we talked about that. You'll communicate preferably face-to-face. And not just solely through social media. But you'll communicate by being prepared and open-minded and honest and understanding. And communicate with a coordinated message. That's an important feature of what you all talked about, and that is you would have a consistent, once the decision is made, you'll have a consistent message as you go through this process. You'll communicate with staff as defined by the charter in a collaborative spirit and with citizens on their level, respecting their level of knowledge and understanding, and with openness. Leadership, communication, and then this idea of roles and expectations. So you'll remember this graph that we talked about in terms of roles. The column on the left is primarily the role of the mayor and the council. Column on the right is primarily the role of the staff. And the coordinator, the person who acts as the fulcrum, who acts as the captain at the helm, if you will, is the city manager, and you have to rely on him and to get information from staff and through staff and to staff as you work through this process. And we talked about these kinds of things. And if you remember that vertical line, those two vertical lines, we likened to a pontoon with a boat motor on the end of it. And what happens to those? What happens to the pontoon boat if one motor overpowers the other? We go in circles. And so to prevent and keep from going to circles, you keep the engines on the back of that pontoon boat coordinated and tuned. And that's the city manager's job, to be able to do that on your behalf. Your role is primarily the big picture: vision, mission, policies. You have to have the support of the staff to get to that, but it's the direction that you set that's extremely important, and that's what you have ultimately done here today. It's the role of the staff to administer those things, to manage the process, and bring those recommendations to you all so that you can make the best decision possible. So those are roles. Then what are expectations? So the councils, we talked about what you all individually expected of each other in this process. You expect to understand what the ask is. You need to understand what it is we're really wanting to do, to be prepared, to set the vision and the mission, to develop and live out our core values, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Expect and provide respect. Earn respect by showing respect. Show grace. I've seen that a couple of times here lately, and I think it's a great phrase, a great comment, to show grace. We're not all perfect. Except for just a few, in the words of Mac Davis, "Oh Lord, it's hard to be perfect when it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way." But we're not all perfect, and so we can fail. We do make mistakes at the council level and at the staff level. And so showing grace is part of this process of expectations and leadership. Show up and participate. Be involved in the process. Work together as a team. And then finally, get behind the vote once the decision is made. So I also ask you, not only what are your expectations of each other, but what are your expectations of staff? Because you have to work together. And the last thing that staff wants to know is that they haven't, the last thing that staff wants to hear is that they haven't been meeting your expectations. And so the sooner we can get those on the table, the better the staff can prepare and work in alignment with those expectations. Be in alignment with the city's culture, honor the values of the city, understand the power you have as a city employee, be people of good character. I had a city manager in my office years ago when I was a city manager, and I had him come in and talk to the staff, and I said, what are your key criteria in hiring people? He said, my one and key criteria is to hire nice people. He said, if I can hire a nice person, we can train him how to work, or her, train him or her how to work. But I want to hire nice people, and I have never forgotten that. People of character. Maintain a strong, professional, and trained team of directors. Let the council know what resources you need, staff. That's an expectation. Help council by providing the information and character they need to make a decision. Keep council informed, to be realistic, and don't participate in unhealthy conversations. So we want to know what each other's expectations are. We want to define what staff's expectations are, but I wanted you to think about what you think staff expects of you. And these were some of the comments that you made. To show grace to staff, to understand the problem completely before making a decision. Staff appreciates asking questions and want to make sure that issue is fully vetted, fully developed, and ready then for a good decision. Be present, prepared, and engaged. Be timely. Read the information and prepare. Provide the resources that are needed. And be non-political and no grandstanding. I also asked Dan, as a relatively new city manager here, every day that first day gets a little bit farther away, but I asked him to relay what his expectations for council and staff are as well. To have mutual respect for citizens, council, and staff. We all have a role to play, and all roles are important. The example is the body of Christ. Every piece of the body has a specific role. Honor our core values, honor the charter, and once a council decision has been made, then all of us, council and staff, need to get behind that decision. Nothing stifles creativity, productivity, and growth like micromanagement. That was a little editorial comment, I think, right there. That really and truly sort of meant don't micromanage and the process. But expectations. So if staff knows what those are and you all are mutually agreeable to those expectations, that also helps create win-win situations. So we talked about leadership, communication, roles, understanding our roles, and fulfilling expectations. And then we moved into that visioning and planning process the next day. I like to put red check marks beside things, and you know that. I put them beside the agenda items when we'd go through there. And now you can see that this visioning and planning process consists of several different parts. The vision, the mission, the values, then the comprehensive plan, and then the annual strategic plan, which that's where we are, and that's what we want to talk about tonight. And those are all put into place by the annual budget. And then, of course, you get the checks and balances from the audit. But you've got checks beside all of those. And many of the cities that I work with, they'll have some, but not all of these. And so it was really good to see that you all have spent the kind of time that needed to be spent to put this package together. So you all spent time, I guess probably now 2 years ago, maybe closer to 3, but 2 years ago, creating that framework for a strategic plan. What is it we want to look like when we grow up? What is our vision? What is our mission? What are our core values? And so we didn't obviously reinvent the wheel. What we wanted to do was add to that with regard to strategies, goals, and objectives as we go through this process. So your vision the vision statement is to be a distinctive, safe, and highly livable community that combines the best of city and country living, including natural landscapes, quality public services, and a variety of local housing, shopping, and lifestyle opportunities. Are we there yet? No, we're probably not. Will we ever get there? Maybe not either. But you always strive for what you want to look like when you grow up. And it's a great vision statement, by the way. And the key for that is to remain consistent with that vision statement in the actions and the things that you do, whether it's an ordinance, whether it's a policy, whether it's a strategy or a goal. Stay consistent with that. If you can't stay consistent with that, then you need to change the vision. You're not saying you haven't really defined what you really want to do. So so as we look at those goals and objectives in just a little bit, then check those against, will they work our way? Will they help us work our way toward this vision that we have for Manvel? How are we going to get there? We know what we want to look like when we grow up. How are we going to get there? We're going to be a safe and responsible community, embracing the values of our past, our present, and our future citizens, and future citizens. So we want to embrace those values. We want to be safe and responsible. How do you do that? You do that by identifying what your core values are, and you have done that. Quality, service, transparency, accountability, stewardship, engagement, and safety. And all of those have definitions associated with them, but that's how everybody works together. If everybody remembers these, uses these consistently, then you're moving in the direction that you want to move. Not every city has defined or has gone through a process to define the community values either. And this is another key quality that you all have worked through during that 2045 strategic plan a couple of years ago that I think should be applauded because you took the time to ask the citizens what it is they expect, and then that helps also give you a guide on where you're going in this process. You know what you want to look like. These are the kinds of things that are important to the community, and how you affect your decisions through this mirror, through this lens, better than a mirror. Enjoying a town and country lifestyle, being a part of, yet apart from, Greater Houston. Commitment to neighborliness and family values, desiring safe, uncongested roads and neighborhoods, supporting local institutions and businesses, providing safe and enriching environments for children and seniors. I'm one of those guys on the end, the senior. Preserving the area's natural and rural landscapes, keeping the cost of housing as attainable as possible, taking pride in an open and friendly community spirit. So you read those bullets, and then you look back at the vision statement, and you have embraced these kinds of values that the community has talked about through your vision statement. Then there are these guiding principles: connected, sustainable, prudent, opportunistic, healthy, age-friendly, welcoming, and safe. And then through the course of our discussions, we actually added one more guiding principle, Dan, and that's organizational excellence. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But each of these as we went through our planning process, and we did our SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you'll see that each of these guiding principles were addressed in one way or another. There are some of those objectives that are in more than one guiding principle because they just fit. But each of the things that you came up with addressed one or more of these guiding principles. So they were well placed. They were appropriate. They are appropriate for the way that you want Manvel to look. So the first one that we talk about is guiding principle is safety, and then the objectives under safety are outlined in this slide. Partner with TxDOT for Iowa Lane bridge replacement, seek out opportunities for additional overpass over the railroad, and continue planning to alleviate traffic congestion. You'll see in this one that there are points applied. If you remember, each of you got dots, red and yellow and green, and you voted, if you will, not technically, but you did place those dots on your priorities, with red dots, I think, being number one, as I recall. Maybe green. Green was number one, yellow was number two, red was number three. And each of those had points associated with them. And so on all of these, the ones that received a dot or more are identified here, and then they're placed in priority order here in just a little bit. We'll see that with them all together. For connected, establish a program for purchasing more public works equipment, establish hiring and evaluation program that encourages being city culture oriented, keep growth-related fees and land dedications up to date and active, complete the 5-year efficiency study identifying community and sales tax opportunities. A few of them had sub-bullets, determine revenue generating opportunities for Sand Pit and the Acre Lake. So you'll see points applied to those. Now, are those that didn't get points not important? No, they are important, and they will be addressed as staff gets through them, but they'll work on the higher priority items with more earnest, in a more earnest way. Sustainable, develop a 5-year staffing plan, seek grants to supplement revenue streams, review and amend special districts policy, seek out people who support the city's culture for elections and committee appointments, and then utilize Chapter 381 agreements for Presidio, Feeder Road, and regional attention. That one got a little bit more specific, but there was some specific discussion about that. Sustainable objectives. Prudent. Amend the special district policy again, so you'll see that this one bounced to these two different guiding principles. Conduct a market salary and benefit survey, create an employee culture that drives longevity, establish and distribute education videos to manage expectations and set boundaries. Opportunistic, consider public-private partnerships for the 160-acre tract, create a downtown in the city center, require all utilities to be buried, purchase available land in historic district for development, and review MEDC policy incentives for beautification programs in the city. Opportunistic. Healthy. Continue efforts to develop that 160-acre tract, seek out funding for trail system, for parks and master plan, continue and add community events such as Extravaganza, Fall Music Fest, Spring Fest, Christmas Parade, anticipate and plan for provisions of services now provided by the ESD. Age-friendly. So you'll see this one again. This has been 3 times in this process, but they are health. It does promote health, and it is important to develop this on an age-friendly basis. Develop the 106 park and public spaces, 160-acre tract, Dolores Martin Park, Buddy Williams Park. Encourage support of county in park development. Move forward with the city center, with a rec center and library facilities. Collaborate with nonprofit organizations for community involvement. Find opportunities for private developers to construct community facilities. Star and senior check-in during emergency events. Ensure that occurs. And then welcoming, again, the park, and again, encourage county support of the park development. Looks like I may have messed up my, I've got those in there twice. And then adding organizational excellence. Establish a board and committee member celebration and recognition program. Establish a robust orientation program for boards and committee appointees. Establish a training management program for directors. Consider appointing council members as liaisons to boards and committees. Establish an employee recognition program, and be more deliberate in communicating victories and needs for the city. And that's a common theme among cities. Was just in a city last weekend, and one of the things they talked about was not being as proactive, informing people of the wins that they have. And so being thoughtful about that and putting that first on your list, these are some good things that have happened, and get your message out the way you want it out. So all of those prioritized objectives then were kind of put together in descending order from the most points to the least. And so you'll kind of see how these fell. Establish a beautification program, amend that special district's policy, consider the public-private partnerships, advocate for family entertainment opportunities, continue efforts to develop the 160-acre tract, develop park public spaces. If you look at some of those that are related, then, and if you were to add those up, they would probably go to the top, very top of the list as you add those together. But you can see how those were done. So you all did a tremendous amount of work through the course of the day that we were together there on the 20th, and came up with all of these objectives as you went through the process. Could we have done that alone? I don't think so. I think it takes a group that are thinking about what that vision is for the community, and what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and what we can do to overcome those weaknesses. And here are those prioritized objectives in this process. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the implementation plan. Dan, did you have that in a position where you could just bring it up? And I'm not going to go through it, but I just want to show you what it looks like.
The short answer is no. It's not in the packet right now.
Okay.
Basically, it's a table. And so on this particular sheet, we've got the top 16 projects. And I think just because the volume of work that this is going to be, we're going to probably whittle that down to the top 10. As it turns out, whenever you get from 10 on up, all of those projects have at least 4 points or more. For instance, the number one project, of course, is the city center. That one's got 18 points. That's the highest of any of the projects. And so we all know this, and that's why we're moving forward on it. So what we've got is a column for which focus area, like Ron talked about, if it was in order to be more welcoming, opportunistic, prudent, organizational excellence, those kind of things. We'll have the objective. We've got the number of points, then the action steps, a budget, if there is one, or a budget estimate, a timeline, and then who's the actual lead on staff for that particular project, and then who are the partners, like what other departments, or are there other folks outside of the city that we're going to need. So we've got this in I guess a shared, the heck is it called? that's listening right now?
Shared drive?
The shared drive, right. So all of us have been adding to that, and I'm hopeful that it will be soon. I hope it's the next meeting where we can present this to you. If not, I'll just email it to council so y'all can see what we're thinking. But we made some good strides, and it was really helpful because there were a lot of projects. Remember that day on the wall, Post-it notes. So it'd be great if we had unlimited resources, unlimited money. We don't. So we need to prioritize, and let's keep the main thing the main thing. But that's what we've done so far.
Yeah, so it gives some order to the process and lets you know. And the last thing is that there is an accountability and reporting requirement, and that's in your report. And so Dan will report to you on a regular basis. I think it's semi-annual basis, the activities on these items. In the meantime, you'll probably see things associated with that on your council agenda, because steps have to be taken, action has to be taken periodically to get a project completely fulfilled. And so you'll see them in the form of the report from the implementation plan. You'll see them in the form of agenda items, and you'll probably see them in the form of budget presentation in the budget presentations as they come up. And if you're seeing those in all three of those areas, that means the staff is doing an excellent job of working the process and getting you in a position to be able to make the decisions that you need to make to fulfill those goals and objectives.
And just real quick, to clarify, the semi-annual is once we've got the plan completed. So don't think we're going to wait for 6 months to bring it back to you, of course. So this may be a monthly presentation or a monthly discussion until we get it, or maybe we get it right the first time in February, and then we're good from there. But I think the semi-annual, what we were talking about when we were doing the budget before, we need more than just summertime to talk about projects. So where are we at? Maybe it's quarterly, but that's one of the things that we need to fine tune is how often do we want to know? Is it semi-annual to council and maybe quarterly, emails to council? Maybe that way.
Right. So I appreciate, again, the opportunity to work with you all to make this presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for your patience with us as we work through this process and
that's great.
Guide the conversation over those 2 days and giving us this overview tonight. Council, any comments and or questions for Ron or for the team?
Sometimes you get what you ask for. So now everybody's got it, and it's in writing, and now we got to do something about it.
Absolutely. Well, that's
y'all did great.
Kind of the main question that I had, and Ron, Dan, you guys spoke to it, was, how do we go from adoption to delivery, and how do we drive that process? And Dan, the sheet that you showed is exactly how we do it. Would love to see how that also ties back to our core values, the focus areas, core values, getting those interconnected. Doing a monthly update's good because that also allows us to identify risks, and if we have to adjust or pivot, because who knows, you might have a Hurricane Beryl that comes through, or a winter freeze this weekend. Fingers crossed, praying that doesn't happen, but things can adjust, things can change, things can pivot. The other thing, Dan, I was thinking about it some is, finding a way that we track the progress from a percentage. What does that look like? Hey, we're 25% along the way, 50% along the way to achieving this. Some of these may be tough to do that, but some very well may, and that's how you measure. If we need to be at 100% by this date, we need to be hitting a certain percentage of mark each step along the way. But I really like it. Great work, and excited to see it implemented.
Good.
All right, thank you, Dan. Ron, appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Council, we do have some time here before we step into the regular meeting, so if you guys are open to it, we can start to work through the agenda items. Does that work for you guys? Yep. Take about 15 minutes here to do that, then we'll take a 5-minute break. So we'll just start, Manager Dan, if you're good with it, we'll start with agenda item number 1 and just step our way through. This is regarding the update to the council rules and procedures. Tammy, can you give us an overview of this agenda item?
I can. So this was actually on your last, an email went out with the exhibits for y'all to review, and this was the result of wanting to update the decorum during the meetings, kind of following a little more of the Robert's Rules of Order, and there were some updates to be put in there. So I sent out a fresh version with those updates, got all those corrected in there. So not sure if you want me to go line by line or if you guys have questions on those updates or.
I think we can open it up for questions. Council, any comments and or questions for Tammy? Tammy, thank you for your work on gathering all the feedback here. No? All right. I think we're good to go on that one. Thank you, Tammy.
Perfect.
Agenda item number 2. This is regarding an update to the design criteria manual. Manager Dan.
Sure, I can take this one. So we try to, for the most part, update the design criteria manual once a year as needed. You know, this goes back to 2008, ironically, when I first started as a consultant, and Ron, that we just heard from, was the consulting city manager for Manvel. He hired us to come in and help put together the first design criteria manual. So anyway, we've tried to update it each year. We come across things that, you know, there's always room for improvement. As it turned out, in 2025, we didn't have anything to update. So this year we've got a couple of things. Probably the biggest one is changing the way that we have contractors mark our underground water and sewer lines. I don't know, Ernie, were they able to bring it over, the 3M tape? Would that be okay, Mayor, if he comes up and just kind of shows it? So the traditional way has kind of been, you know, just, it's almost like baling wire. It's just wire that goes along the lines, and so when you're walking across it, it'll pick up conductivity if it's there. But if the line gets broken, then it doesn't work. So this is newer, it's certainly new to us. And are they color-coded, Ernie?
They are, yeah.
You want to tell them just a little about it? You can speak freely.
So the blue are for the water lines. They make everything that you see in here in green for the wastewater. And then they also make a purple for the reclaim pipe.
And what do they do?
So these are detectors. So right now, the way we mark our water and wastewater lines are with tracer wire. In other
So
words,
you
can
tap
energize
into
the
it,
line
yeah.
Yeah.
and scan it and find the line. But the
Okay.
problem with the tracer wire, once it gets cut or broken, it's
done.
no good.
Right.
So these have transponders in them. It doesn't matter if this gets cut, you can still pick it up, no matter
What's the lifespan in those?
what. 100 years.
Oh, well, there you go.
So they say it'll outlive the lifespan.
And the utility industry recommends this is the best practice too.
Is it on 100% of the line or just in places?
No, the tape, it's above the water line, and it runs the length of the pipe.
Length of the pipe?
These are for marking like the joints, I mean the fittings, like say you have a 12-inch T, you would program this barcode to recognize that it's a 12-inch T, so when you scan that, it's going to show it on the locator.
And Manager Dan, I'm assuming we would update our internal GIS to show which of our lines have this compared to just the tracer wire, so that way when we go out to locate, we know where we got to tap into compared to where we can use this.
Yeah.
Okay, love it.
The old system now is susceptible, you talk about line breaks. That can be a multitude of things that cause that, right? Shifting ground, anything like that. How much of our system, just a ballpark figure, 10%, 100%, is failing right now due to that old system?
Well, this is only for locating the lines, this is not.
That's what, how much of the old system, the tracer wires? I mean, when y'all go out and
I
look,
would say if we actually tried to go out and locate everything, we'd probably find maybe 40 to 50% that's not actually reading like it should be.
okay,
So that material, you said it's cut, it'll still read.
Yeah, so you can actually feel the little, this is the part that reads, so I mean,
So
if
what
this
if
gets
a-
cut,
What if a section of it is removed by, a backhoe or whatever?
you just
How-
put another piece and fit it in.
Okay, but if it's. Well, like a 2, you said if it's cut, it'll still read, but if you have a 2 or 3 feet section missing, how does that work
So
against
there's
the,
space on this tape, there's space.
okay,
So every 8 feet, you're gonna have one of these.
okay,
If you do have to do a repair, make a repair, like I said, you can cut a piece of this and just drop it back in the hole. And it'll still have the transponder.
okay. What about programming?
It's all programmed through the wand.
Okay.
Like I said, they have these barcodes on them, so you can actually program what kind of fitting you have in the ground. Yes, and a T, 45 degree bend.
Okay.
So this would be moving forward. Anybody that puts water lines in for us, they would have to do that. Okay.
What equipment do we use for the wands? 5-ax? Or what the wanding equipment, what brand is that, do you know?
Right now, we have a. I'm not sure.
Okay.
What would be the added expense to go this route?
For us, the city. Minimal.
Yeah.
I mean, a roll.
Or a contractor's gonna-
1,000 feet of this is, I want to say $300.
Okay, great. Okay.
If we do repairs, are we gonna put this in on all
Yes.
repairs?
You excited about this, Ernie?
Man, this is
Yeah.
the first good product I've seen come across my desk.
Thanks,
Thank you, Ernie. What else you got for us, Dan, for the DCM?
I just want more of Ernie. He's just so straightforward. So that's honestly, that's one of the biggest ones. And then in the drainage section, section 5, give credit where it's due. Harry noticed something that could be improved. The section where we talk about our pumping requirements, pumping is only allowed on a case-by-case basis. But for whatever reason, the section that it's in right now, section 6, it's on page 54 of the Design Criteria Manual, it's under ownership and easements. Not very intuitive. We know where it's at, but anyway, so what we're proposing is that we strike that from ownership and easements. There are some things that we need to talk about in ownership when we're talking about who maintains the detention facility, and all that kind of good stuff, maintenance berms and those kind of things. But we're adding a section 9, page 55. Nothing new, just literally bringing all the information into its own section that's literally called pump systems. So I think that was a great idea, Harry.
And real quick, Dan, so
Sure.
Harry, I know that you had brought that up. That works for you, that structure?
Yeah, no, I felt like it's an exception to the process.
Yep.
And it was buried. To me, it was buried and not clear. And when you have an exception to the process, you want to be very clear. And so, yeah, but I do have a question in that, oh, God, no, I just lost it, but, so in that, in the pump detention pond, right? So when the developer looks at, is the requirement it should take the same amount of water as any other detention pond, right? I mean, does that need to be said in that specific area, that it should meet the same requirements of, or do you think it needs to?
In the
be said
detention
like that?
calculation, so you calculate the detention required the same way.
Okay.
So that part's already in there.
Okay, so I'm trying to
Yeah, no,
not
that's a good question.
leave a door open for somebody to say, well, you didn't say it, so.
Sure.
Right, so, but as long as they look up and read the calculation
Right.
section, right?
Exactly.
See
Which they'll
above.
have to. Yep.
Right,
Exactly.
okay, well, I just wanted to be sure that
No, great
that
question.
addressed that.
Along those lines, and this was I think it was from Matt and Percy, maybe Jorge. So floodplain mitigation, of course, is required. That's in our flood damage prevention ordinance already, but we didn't necessarily spell it out, and I guess they were encountering some engineers. We have a lot of people back in the day. All of the engineers that worked on projects in Manvel were from around here, so they knew Brazoria County, they knew the drill. But we're getting engineers from Austin and San Antonio and all these other places that may or may not necessarily require the same kind of detention requirement. So anyway, we've got a little section on page 52 at the bottom that literally just spells out, hey, floodplain mitigation is required. If there's a property in AE, then you're going to mitigate at a 1-to-1 basis. So it's not new information. It just hasn't been spelled out before. So those are really the big 3 things, Mayor. Couple of little housekeeping things. In the section 6, maybe this is one other thing to mention. The TIA, the traffic impact analysis, it's been a little nebulous, I think. It just said anything generating a volume of what, Joe's 5,000 trips or more. And as y'all have noticed, when we have these different SUPs and things come before you, there's more nuances than just that. So we're digging in a little bit, and we're talking about, okay, well, it might be if it's 1,000 trips a day, or 100 trips per peak hour, or 100-acre site or larger. So we've got some more provisions in there instead of just, a school might not generate 5,000 trips per day. I mean, it probably does, but it might not. Or, if there's carpooling involved, but that doesn't mean that we don't still need a TIA. So there's some more teeth in there. And then we also spell out that they need to do the TIA worksheet, which is something that we practically use, just now we're putting the requirement in there.
Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question or comment?
Yes, like the email that I sent this morning about the pump detention. I don't know if this is the right place for the guidelines, if we have guidelines about the gas generator backups. What criteria do we put for people who want pump detention? Like, your generator will be checked every 6 months. You will provide us with, do we have that in place?
Well, so yes and no. So what we did is, the point number 5 is that the corresponding drainage district has to also approve the pump facility. And the reason we put it back on them is because each drainage district has a little bit of nuances as far as just like if you have a septic system, how you have to have, quarterly monitoring or whatever. So the drainage districts require a lot of monitoring that they have to do with a pump detention system. But BDD 5 is a little bit different than 4, a little bit different than CNR 3. So as long as it's captured, they're going to have to do whichever drainage district tells them to do. So rather than spelling out all of the different 3 scenarios, we're just saying, make sure you get their approval.
And will we require that information to be sent to us for our records?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Great point.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments from council? All right, we have time, council. Let's do one more agenda item. We'll do agenda item number 3. This is regarding the calling for a public hearing regarding land use assumptions and the capital improvement plan for impact fees. And Joe's, to make sure I understand this correctly, this is specifically for the scheduling of a public hearing. At a future date, we'll get a more formal presentation regarding.
That is correct. That is correct. This is a requirement of a state requirement. So we're just setting the date, and when we have the public hearing, at that point we'll have our consultant who will be making a presentation. We have a final report on the land use assumption. And we've made it public. It'll be available on the website, and the packet also includes the report for us to review. So at the public hearing, there'll be more information that'll be provided. And just for the benefit of the public, this by itself is not setting a certain impact fee or not adopting an impact fee. This is just a resolution to set the date of the public hearing, which is a state requirement.
Thank you, Joe's. Count.
It only applies for roadway facilities also.
So we're going through the impact fee study, which includes our water, wastewater, and we are updating that, but the roadway impact fee is what we are adding. So that's what it pertains to.
Manager Dan.
Mayor, I was just going to say, since Ernie is here tonight, if you'd be okay with on regular agenda item number 6,
Move that up.
he was going to talk about, or he could just tell you about the 2 main things or why this is coming forward, the lead and the temporary construction meters.
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
okay?
Ernie, if you want to come forward. And as Ernie comes forward, just to piggyback Councilman Bonner's point, when we have the public hearing is going to be to update the water and wastewater impact fee, and at the same time, implement the roadway impact? Or is the updating of those 2 fees coming at a later date?
Good question. My understanding is that this particular public hearing date is specifically for the roadway impact fee that we are planning to adopt and establish, because it's a new thing.
Okay.
And then we are updating our water, wastewater, and eventually we'll get a total impact fee, I guess.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Ernie, you had 2 items for us regarding agenda item number 6?
Yeah, so we would like to adjust the deposit for our temporary hydrant meters. We're going from 750 to 1,400 just because the cost of the meters has increased over the years. And the lead requirement, that changed in 2011, so we're a little behind the times in getting that adjusted in the ordinance.
And on the temporary construction meter, so this cost would cover the full cost of the meter itself?
It gets us closer.
It's as much closer?
Because it's not just the meter that we have on there, we have the backflow preventer and everything, so
Right.
it brings it more in line with what we're seeing in other cities and stuff.
What we want to see is more of an incentive for them to actually return it, right? So if they don't, okay, well, we're not out this huge amount of money because those meters are expensive, right?
And so, Ernie, this would be in a situation that you have a residential home development happening, that they're having to get these temporary meters put in to track their water usage. So they're coming to you guys, right now they pay $750, they get the meter, backflow and all of that, they can begin using it, but we've seen potentially some situations where they take the meter with them.
That's happened.
Because it's half the cost of what they might normally have to pay for it on the market. And so this is just, if they return the meter, and it's still in good working condition, they get their deposit back. If something happens, we've got the money there in order to pay for it ourselves.
Correct.
Councilman Bonner?
That explanation there was kind of my question too.
Perfect.
Good.
Thank you, Ernie. And then Dan, for this agenda item, was there anything else of note? You know, I think maybe Robbie, Rosie, you guys were going to speak to this one. Anything else of importance to call out regarding agenda item number 6? Okay. Great. All right, council, if you're good with it, we'll take a 3-minute recess here, and then we'll step back into it here at 6 o'clock. Does that work for you guys? Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Everyone, we will officially call this city council meeting for the city of Manvel regular session to order at 6:02 p.m. We have 5 of 7 members present. I do want to give a special shout out to Councilwoman Carmen Roby Robinson and her family. She gave birth to their newborn son, who is healthy and came a little bit early, but mom and son are doing well, so we wish them and their family the best. Also, just want to take a moment and give a shout out to Councilman Keith Bonner, who turns 45 years old today. Congratulations.
At least.
At least. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Councilman. And we will begin with our invocation. Tonight we have one of our MEDC board members, Mr. Donald Atkinson, who is going to lead us in the prayer. Thank you, Mr. Atkinson.
Can everybody bow their heads? Lord, thank you for this opportunity to be up here. Please watch over those who could not make it. Work on the minds of the ones that's here with the decisions they have to make. Weigh on their hearts to make the right decisions for the community. Bless all those who are here and hopefully make it home safe. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have our inspirational reading from Mayor Pro Tem David Lance.
Thank you, Mayor. A little write-up that I came across that I'd like to share. It's called Be Thankful. Be thankful that you don't already have everything you desire. If you did, what would there be to look forward to? Be thankful when you don't know something, for it gives you the opportunity to learn. Be thankful for the difficult times. During those times, you grow. Be thankful for your limitations, because they give you opportunities for improvement. Be thankful for each new challenge, because it will build your strength and character. Be thankful for your mistakes. They will teach you valuable lessons. Be thankful when you're tired and weary, because it means you have made a difference. It's easy to be thankful for the good things. A life of rich fulfillment comes to those who are also thankful for the setbacks. Gratitude can turn a negative into a positive. Find a way to be thankful for your troubles, and they can become your blessings.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Well said. Next, we will go to our pledges, so if you can, please stand and join me. First, to the U.S. flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And next, to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you, everyone. And Councilman Oplager just pointed to it. We have a new flag that is up here. I want to thank Tammy and the team for finding this flag and putting it here. This is in recognition of America's 250th birthday that is happening this year. As Mayor Pro Tem David Land spoke to, most nations and civilizations around this point in time, they come across struggles and they come across challenges. And in America, we are certainly at that point. And you turn on the news, you turn on the TV, and you see it. But I am thankful that we live in the greatest nation in the world and grateful for the opportunity to continue to make it great and continue to build upon a foundation that has blessed each and every one of us. And so thank you, Tammy, for this reminder as we head throughout the year with this flag. Alyssa, thank you, Alyssa. I know she'll be watching this tomorrow, so thank you, Alyssa. Next, we will go to presentations, which I believe we have none for tonight. It's the first time in a while for no presentations. Any public comments submitted, Tammy? No? Okay. City manager update. Manager Dan.
Moving right along. The first one I want to bring to your attention is tomorrow we will be having the pre-construction meeting for the City Hall West Wing and Heritage Park project. So we'll be meeting with the Crane Group tomorrow morning to officially kick that construction project off. Next, tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. is the SMDA and TERS meetings, right? If you are on that board or if you want to attend, that's tomorrow at 4. I know our week is a little different, so since
Why'd you laugh
today's
about that one, Dan?
What's that?
Why'd you laugh when you said if you want to attend?
If you want to attend?
Yeah, you kind of chuckled there. They're riveting meetings, right?
They are, yeah. They won't take up much of your time. And then the next big one is Wednesday, February 4th at 10 a.m. will be a mandatory pre-proposal meeting for the City Center P3 opportunity. So that's the public-private partnership. So that was in fact, that was the number one goal that we just heard from Ron's report. So that hit the paper on Sunday. So we are officially advertising now. We're going to advertise, I think, 2 more Sundays. This coming up on the 25th, and then was it the first or 2nd? Yeah. That Sunday after it. So anyway, we'll have a mandatory pre-proposal meeting in here at 10 a.m. And then for right after that, we'll go take a quick tour of the site, just kind of drive around so they see what they're up against. This part of the project is going to be soliciting firms that we want to build a relationship with. This is a huge project, so we're going to be asking them to put their best foot forward. What would it look like to them? What kind of projects have they done like this in the past? This isn't a one building. This is a center. This is the biggest thing that we'll probably ever do as a city. So we want to get it right. So anyway.
February 4th?
February 4th, yes, sir. And then the anticipation is that their submittals will be due March 10th at 10 a.m. So we're giving them a little bit over a month to get their submittals in. Obviously, we want to give them enough time. But the goal is that we'd like to get something, if everything goes well, get something to this council by April, certainly before May, before the election, just in case anything changes. So that's the timeline that we're on. That's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Manager Dan. Councilman Bonner?
All of these proposals are based on the latest
Yes, sir.
engineering drawing or whatever.
The PG
layout.
the PGAL layout that the council approved. Yes, sir. That's part of the packet. It sure is. Both the one that was a little more defined, and then the other one that was more conceptual, is like the different zones. So both of those are part of the packet.
Is it being presented Is it being presented to them, to the bidders, as sectionalizing the project?
We want to see what their approach would be.
Okay.
Would they, which projects can they get on first? Obviously, we want to, some of the stuff that's not pretty, the infrastructure, the roads, the detention, that's going to have to be done first. That's just all there is to it. And then we want to see, how are you proposing to get reimbursed, ultimately? So they're going to want to have some commercial components, I would think, towards the front end to start generating revenue. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Manager Dan. Good questions, gentlemen. Next, we will move on to the consent agenda. Any comments or questions regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Councilman Bonner and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Lands. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. We have no items removed from the consent agenda. We have regular agenda item number 1, consideration and possible action to approve resolution 2026-R-02. Tammy presented this item at the workshop. Thank you, Tammy. Any comments or questions from council? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve this resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Opliger. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you, Tammy, to you and the team for your work on that. Agenda item number 2, consideration and possible action to approve resolution 2026-R-03. Manager Dan covered this during the workshop. Council, any comments and or questions? Hearing none, Councilman Rossi Knox, can I have a motion for this agenda item? We have
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to
Second.
approve from the councilman. We have a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you, Dan, to you and the team for your work on that. Agenda item number 3, this is consideration and possible action to approve Resolution 2026-R-04. Joe's presented this item during the workshop. Do I have any comments or questions from council regarding this agenda item? Hearing none, do I have a motion for this agenda item?
Make a motion.
We have a motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem Lands and a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. We have agenda item number 4, consideration and possible action to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2026-0-02. Tammy, can you give us an overview of this item?
So after the last meeting, there were some things that you guys wanted to see added into this ordinance. So I hope we captured all of those and everyone had a chance to look it over. One of the things was the number of signs that candidates were allowed to have out. So we've updated that in the ordinance to make it up to 3 campaign signs, with the size being the same as what was proposed, the max 3 square feet per base and in height. We also added in there some special language for the canopies for the electioneering to be in that back row. There's a map or a picture with everything drawn out on where the canopies can go, as well as where the political signs can go. So that's been added in there. We made defined some of the language in there a little bit better. One of the things Bobby suggested we add for vehicles was boats and trailers. And Mayor, we did add the language in there that would allow temporary parking for somebody whose vehicle may be wrapped, that is allowed as long as they're there to vote or there for official city business, not necessarily parked there to advertise and take up a parking spot, but it is allowed on the property. Those are pretty much the main changes from the last meeting for some of the cleanup language. And then if y'all had any questions on some of the things that we did talk about at the last meeting, we can go over that as well.
Thank you, Tammy. Council, any comments or questions for Tammy and the team? Councilman?
The 3 square feet for sign, do you know like what size of sign that is? That the 4 by, or the small ones?
It's kind of like the medium size ones. It's not
Okay.
the little bitty ones.
I think that's what Pearland does, and no one makes signs no one even puts signs up that size, so it'll be a new thing for candidates, I guess.
So usually those are the ones that you it can be under that.
Okay.
So you've got the small ones, and then you've got kind of the medium ones that a lot of times you'll see kind of at the corner of 1128 and 6 for local elections anyways. Now, not sure for the higher House seats or Senate seats, but for the local seats, usually it's either the smaller ones or about that size.
The ones that I did were 4 by 4s, which is the typical, and then 4 by 8 is the giant one. I'm sure they can make 3 by 3, but
Is it 3 square feet or 3 by 3?
3 by 3.
It's a 3 by 3.
okay.
So we may, I think.
Perhaps a
to
4
your-
by 4 would be the
9 square
correct.
feet.
I don't even think I've seen a 3 by 3 before.
But you can use smaller than that.
Yeah.
So you could put out the normal size signs.
So the size is not to exceed 3 square feet per sign face or 3 square feet in height. So it can be anything up to that and lower.
So the 3 square foot would be the little sign, right? That's the little normal sign that are basically they're smaller than 3 square feet, but
Yeah, it's bigger than, some of them you'll see like that, almost reminds me of what I would call a garage
some of them are
sale
square and
sign.
some of them are more of a rectangle, but.
And do we have how many?
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, Councilman, I'll just clarify. The 3 square feet is your typical yard sign that you see for campaigns.
Okay.
So the 4 by 4s and 4 by 8s, we're saying those are not allowed at this polling
Okay.
location. It would just be your yard signs.
And we're proposing only 3 of those per candidate?
Yes, only on the property. So you can still put them around the city, you can put them at the other polling locations, just around this property.
Who's going to pick them up?
The candidates,
Oh,
the candidates.
Councilman, does that, just real quick, guys, before we move on here, Councilman, does that answer your question? Or would you like to see any changes to it, or are you good with the approach? Okay, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Oplager, you had a question about picking up the
No, I
signs?
was just wondering on the mechanics of when somebody's violating the rules, who's going to be out there managing that? And then, I guess, code enforcement type thing, yeah, okay. Very good. Fair is fair.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments or questions from council? Tammy, the only question that I would have is what method or channels are we looking to disseminate this information and get it out there? You have February coming up very, very quickly, so I'm assuming we would get this to the county elections department.
Correct. So the first part will be getting it straight over to Lisa so they can get it distributed. It'll be on the website. The local election will be a lot easier. And then we'll kind of have to use our partners for anyone running, like for the school district, those that we can send it out to the different entities that are having elections. But yeah, we'll definitely get it to Lisa in the county, and we'll definitely have it on the website. And here they're supposed to pull a permit for signs. So if they do what they're supposed to, no matter what election it is, it'll be included with that information as well.
Perfect. If we can also make sure to get this to our election judge, that would be helpful too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thanks,
How
Tammy.
hard, Mayor, how hard would it be to indicate where the 100-foot line is on the drawing that you've got there?
So I've not gone out there and measured it yet. The county actually takes, we have no
Okay.
authority in
Not
that.
us,
They
anyway.
have, the judge actually
Okay.
will go out there and do that measuring, and then it'll actually be taped off. I mean, there'll be markers out there.
I mean, we all know based on what she said at the last meeting, that it's right in front of the canopies, but
And then Keith kind of drew it out on GIS, and that's where it showed as well.
kind of at the start of the.
From the front door to the start of the parking spaces at that last row, it's 118 feet,
Yeah.
according to Google. Didn't go out there with a tape measure, I just Googled it that night, so it's about 118 feet to the parking spaces, so.
Okay.
Any other questions to ask, council, regarding this agenda item? Hearing none, do I have a motion for this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Councilman Bonner, a second from Councilman Rossi Knox. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you, Tammy, team, Bobby, for your work on this. Next, we have agenda item number 5. Tammy, we're sending this one over to you. This is consideration and possible action to approve ordinance 2026-0-03.
This one is going to be a two-part process. This is approving the ordinance calling the election, as well as approving the joint contract with the county and authorizing the mayor to sign that for the county to run our May election. It's exactly the same that we've used over the course of time. Each year, I can go over it in detail if you'd like, or if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Totally up to how you guys want to.
Council, do you guys have any comments or questions for Councilman Bonner?
I just wondered, does the county assign the election judge and all of that? And
They do.
that's part of the contract? Okay, thank you.
And they're listed, the information in here is also listed in the contract on the primary individuals for those positions. It's also got the fees that are charged, those are set. The county doesn't get to set those. They're reasonable. And then at the polling location, which is really nice because it's bigger, there'll be a lot more machines that they can bring in. So that'll be a nice addition.
Councilman Bonner, go ahead.
Thought of one more quick question. If there was a runoff election, does this have to go back through the same process for deciding where we're going to vote, or is this moving forward for any election in the city?
So this is going through for, I think it was the runoff election to go through the same process. We'll call the election. It'll be at the same location, though, the voting, yes.
The location is going to be set from now until.
It's like 4 election cycles. that we've authorized, and then after that, it'll have to come back to the table and be relooked at. So for the next couple years is
Yeah,
all.
that's what I was asking. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments or questions, council? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-0-03. Do I have a second? We have a second from Councilman Oplager. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you, Tammy. We have agenda item number 6. This is consideration and possible action to approve the first of 2 readings of ordinance 2026-0-04. Robbie, Rosie, and Ernie covered this during the workshop. Just a follow-up question that I had. I do not see a fee schedule update on the agenda. We should expect to have that with the second reading. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Any comments or questions from council on this agenda item? Do I have a motion for this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve 26.
We have a motion to approve from Councilman Oplager. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Agenda item number 7. This is consideration and possible action to approve ordinance 2026-0-05. Ms. Rosie, what do you have for us tonight?
This budget amendment is basically a cleanup for the fiscal year 2025. The first part of it is for the general fund. As you know, it requires that if I'm going to transfer funds from one department to another to get your approval, we had 3 departments that went over budget, and we're transferring from another department to cover the deficiencies on those 3 departments. On the debt service, we went over by $252,000 in the property tax rebates to the different MUDs. And again, we're recognizing the additional revenue that we had in that fund so that we can cover the deficiency. In the Parks Fund, we went over by $9,574, and we're asking to be able to transfer in from the fund balance. The Court Truancy Fund, we went over by $9,000, and we're asking to recognize the additional revenue that was earned in that fund. This fund was used for the teen court expenses. SMDA fund went over budget by $2 million because of a bond that was issued after the budget was, and it's all related to the expenses and the payment to the developer.
Thank you, Rosie. Just to make sure that I have an understanding of some of these items here, and just for communication's sake, so like personnel, I know personnel went over, and that's because we had a tuition reimbursement that we were able to do, which
that is correct.
Incredible thing. Mm-hmm. Development services went over, but development services is, in a sense, net neutral, where their expenditure is covered by the revenue that we get from permits and plan reviews and those fees that are paid. So while we are technically over according to an expense standpoint, the revenue is covered.
That is correct.
Okay. And some of this revenue from other departments, like the fire marshal's department was under budget, IT department was under budget, emergency management was under budget. So because we were able to be under budget in other departments, it opened up the revenue
to cover for exactly
areas. And then for just the last item, for the debt service fund, our revenue came in higher, but because of these rebate agreements from the past, because your revenue comes in higher, your payment back as the rebate also comes in higher.
That is correct.
We have to record that higher rebate back.
That's
so it's not like we're pulling from property taxes in another area of town to cover this. It's coming from the revenue that's being produced there.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate that. Council, any comments and or questions about that? Councilman, we'll go Mayor Pro Tem Lands, and then we'll go Councilman Bonner after that. Mayor Pro Tem?
So the project's amount, the 2.2 million, that's coming out of a
bond that we got for SMDA
okay.
after budgets.
So the money is sitting there. We're just using it for a payment.
Yes, that's correct. We borrowed the money, then we just turn around and pay the developer that money.
Okay. So when all said and done, are we pulling anything out of general fund to balance this budget?
No, we're not.
We're not.
From the fund balance.
You're my best friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Bonner?
And you answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from council? Great job, Rosie. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
overview. Thank you for your work, your and your team's work on this. Council, do I have a motion for this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Councilman Bonner, and we have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Lands. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Agenda item number 8, this is consideration and possible action on appointing Matt Lawson to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, Place 4. We had Matt, who was here for the workshop and spoke. Tammy, can you speak to a little bit about how this appointment came to be, what this appointment is?
Oh, God, I keep doing that. Senate Bill 1883 passed, and when that bill passed, it changed the requirements for the advisory board that a minimum of 50% had to represent real estate development or building industries, and the members could not be city officers or employees, where that used to be 40%. So because it's increased, even though the boards will be coming up for appointment in the near future, there's some important things going on with that board right now. We wanted it to meet the requirements that the Senate bill requires. So Ramji was the board member that was in that seat. I did reach out and talk to him, and he was 100% on board. He'd still like to be involved, so I let him know we would let him know of future boards. But he felt a little out of his place on this board in the sense of understanding the role of the board and what the other board members seem to know. So Matt, being a true fit for all the qualifications, he volunteered and said he would be willing. So that's how that came about.
Thank you, Tammy. Council, any comments or questions? Mayor Pro Tem Lands?
So my only concern or question, so Matt being associated with Meridiana, what kind of, on this board, what kind of, I hate to use the word power, is there? I mean, are we, let's go ahead and ask, is there any kind of conflict that we're looking at? It could be any conflict.
So one of the reasons why at the staff level we thought this was a good idea as well. Meridiana happens to be a development that doesn't pay impact fees because they have their own water plant and wastewater plant. So it doesn't impact that development one way or the other, if that helps. It wouldn't probably be appropriate to some of the other developments that are paying impact fees. It's kind of tricky that they want you to have a developer, an active developer, okay? I don't know how other cities would be able to do it. So we're in a good situation that we have somebody that actually fits that bill, that it shouldn't be a conflict.
It's an advisory board only. We haven't delegated any function of government to this particular board. So they're just to give advice, and there's a reporting requirement that they have to oversee as well. But basically, it's an advisory board.
Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I'll add to that. This board is going to look at over the next 5 to 10 years, what capital projects should we do by working with consultants? What are the estimated costs of those capital projects? They submit that recommendation to City Council. We adopt it. We get the, as Bobby said, the updates. But ultimately, where that would drive is that would drive an update to our impact fees because they're outlining what the capital projects are needed there. So we can disagree with their recommendation. We can change what their recommendation is, but nothing goes to them, and they get the final say, and that's it. Everything would come to us. Is my understanding. Is that pretty accurate? Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, any other questions or comments here for you? Good. Okay. Council, any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion for this agenda item? We have a motion to approve from Councilman Oplager. Do I have a second? We have a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. We next have an executive session. Just want to take a moment before we call the executive session to explain it a little bit. We, every February, have to appoint or reappoint members to our PD&Z board as well as to our Economic Development Corporation. And so in years past, we've gone through the process of appointing them and reviewing applications and talking about it as council. One of the things we're introducing now as a step is actually an interview process. if somebody wants to be reappointed or if they want to be appointed for the first time, not just looking at their resume, but getting an opportunity to meet them in person, talk to them face to face, ask them questions is a step that we're introducing. So tonight we will be meeting in executive session to review all of the applicants. We had great applicants. Thank you to everybody that applied. We will be reviewing their applications and choosing which ones we want to invite back at a future meeting to be able to interview them and ask them some questions to make sure they're the right fit, they embody our core values, and will keep us moving in the right direction. And so what we will do now is I'll read the executive session. Within the executive session, we'll identify who we want to bring back, and then Tammy will work with your team to invite them to a future meeting. So City Council will convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, and duties of a public officer or employee. 1, discussion on the applicants for the appointment of a planning, development, and zoning commission board members. 2, discussion on applicants for the appointment of Manvel Economic Development Corporation board members. We will head into executive session at 6:33 p.m. Dan, please come back with us, whoever needs to come back from your team. Thank you, everyone. Council will reconvene from executive session at 7:17 p.m. Having taken no action in executive session, we will proceed with the interview process, and Tammy will be reaching out to the applicants. Thank you again to everybody that applied and wanting to serve the great community of Manvel. That brings us to the end of our agenda for tonight, y'all. Out of here before 7:30, unless anybody takes a long time during mayor and council comments. So we will open it up. Any comments from council?
I would just like to say thank everyone for coming to my grandma's funeral. It meant a lot. So.
Absolutely. You guys have been in our prayers, Garrett. Any other comments, council? Anything from staff before we close out? No? All right, BCCA is tomorrow night, City of Iowa Colony. Hope to see you guys there. Barbara Bennett Elementary School.
Is that where it's at?
Is that where it's at? So it's in Manvel? So Iowa Colony, BC. Oh. Okay.
Not their usual location because they could not get the stadium.
Oh, it was Meridiana Elementary.
Okay.
Yes.
And then their building.
Yeah.
So that's the second one if we're heading down that way?
Third one on your right. So it's right near Center Court Pizza.
Oh, that far.
That far. Yeah, it's a trek. Have you ever been? That's good. Meridiana Elementary School.
All right.
Perfect. 9815. And then, Tammy, our next council meeting is February the 2nd at 5 p.m. Great. All right, council, do I have a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Bonner. Do I have a second? We have a second from Councilman Oplager. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 5-0.